All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. And today I am here in lovely Grove, Oklahoma. It's nice down here, Lane.
It is, yep. Yeah, it's God country.
Your new place is beautiful. It's a little warmer than I'd it's like 80 degrees outside right now.
A little flatter.
Yes, much flatter than the last place that you lived at.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yep.
But Lane, I was able to come down here. I'm picking up a dog off Joe, and we've been trying to get this done for a while. Of course, whenever you come up to go to the zones for Tournament of Champions, we were going to do it. And then just like today, pretty much, everybody's running late, and everything takes longer than what we think, and we couldn't get this done. So I'm glad to be able to get down here and sit with you now. But I wanted to sit down and talk with you. This is your, third appearance on Houndsman XP?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, second or third.
I know when you won the first Houndsman XP that I listened to, I think, was when you won the Youth World with Emmy, maybe?
Well, I don't know if I done a podcast then. I do know the first one I done, I think, was when
Fielder was still...
Yeah, we done it, and I think it was when we won the UKC World Hunt.
That may have been it,
yeah. And then I guess this will probably be my second time because I did another one, and it was just kind of like a little short deal, I think. But yeah, I think this is my second time, I believe. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you back. Me and you've been friends for quite a while. I hunt with you quite a bit when I'm down here. I know you've been up at the house hunting with me, and I was able to. I think the only cast that Shot's lost in the last 6 months, I was handling him.
yeah, probably. Yeah,
and just so people know, we didn't buy Shot. That was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah. Thank goodness, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think Finley's goofy enough to buy that sorry thing of mine.
I'll tell you what, we'd have liked to have him. I know, I've hunted with Shot for a long time. I've always liked him. He's always been real businesslike. He's always been good about having his coons. And, of course, he's got that good male dog mouth and all that stuff like he's supposed to. But it seems like here in the last 4, 5, 6 months, you've really been on a roll. He's making more trees. What have you done different lately with Shot?
Man, I tell you, last year he had one Super Stakes left, and we run him in a lot of open hunts. We kind of got lucky there in the month of May and picked up quite a bit of money and run for a truck ticket and got a truck ticket with him, and so we thought, well, we ended up. Like we was at that time, we was like fourth or something in the national male race, and we thought, well, there's probably no way we can win this thing, but let's just roll with it a little bit. And we put him in a lot of casts, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of got the slacking on the just coon hunting part. I put him in way too many hunts without pleasure hunting him, and I told myself at the end of the race, we was out of it. Ike Rainey and them, they kept pushing, and my dog was kind of basically falling apart, I'll be honest with you. Just put him in too many casts. So at the end of that thing, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to take this winter and I'm just going to coon hunt him. And I'm not gonna mess with him at all. I'm just going to cut him loose and shoot a bunch of coons to him and just let him have fun with it. And honestly, that's what I've done this last winter. I've just hunted him like one should be hunted. I went back to, hunting pretty hard and feeding him a lot of coons and just letting him have fun with it. And I think it's just a big combination between that. I think mentally the dog is finally where he needs to be at. He just turned 4, and mentally he's as good as he's ever has been. And I think a lot of dogs, at times it takes that mental development to him, to get real mature and to settle down, and he's just settled down, and I think that's, other than just coon hunting like I did, I think it's just, a lot of it's just with age, and he's just kind of settled down, and his mama was that way too. Emmy was that way. She was, she was one you always had to stay on top of until she was about 4, and then it was just like a switch flip, man, and she was just a whole different dog. I mean, way more consistent. She just settled down and started doing her job, and she was having fun with it. And I think that's a lot of his deal. And I think from the ones I've seen out of Emmy, that I've raised, I think all of them's about that way, really. I mean, they're pretty good dogs when you start them, pretty good young dogs, but man, when they get to that 4 or 5 years old stage, they're the best they'll ever be, and I think that's just in my opinion, I think that's probably what did it. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still a dog, and he's still a Cole. But I tell you, he's doing a lot better now than what he was, 2 years ago when he was a 2-year-old.
Do you think it's because the track record that we have with all our male dogs? You've hunted with all of them. You've hunted with Shock, Bones, Ralph, Con, Duds, where they hit that 2-year-old mark and they're lights out, and then they go through that same thing that Shock went through, where we get to pushing them and we get to putting them in hunts, and then they fall apart a little bit. But other than maybe Dollar, Duds won a little bit late, after I got aggravated with him and put him up for a while. But, most of ours, we can't bring them back. Do you think that might be a genetic thing, or is that something that you're doing different as a handler than what we're doing?
I tell you what I think. I don't think it's anything I do different, because, honestly, I don't know no more than anybody else. But I think a lot of it is no different than an athlete. Some athletes can recover from things, from whatever that may be. And I think mentally, that's what it is in a dog, in my opinion. I think a dog some dogs you can, they can get to that point where they're not having fun with it anymore, and they just don't operate for you. And then, I think you can take just 45, 50 days and just coon hunt them, and they can bring them back. And I think some of them just can't. But I think mentally, is what it depends on. And I believe I don't necessarily, in my opinion, I don't believe it's genetics. Yeah. I just think it's just how they are. You know what I mean? And I think
I was hoping you'd give me some just golden ticket so I could bring all these resurrected dogs back that I still pack around and feed all the time.
I promise you, I wish I could. I wish I knew the secret to it, because if I did, I'd be a millionaire and I'd have a lot better dogs than I got. So
there's a few guys that bring, I think of Steve Yant. Steve Yant will get a washed up dog every now and then. Chad Doolin don't want them unless they're already 13 years old.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends on, and a lot of it's how the guys hunt, how a guy hunts, I know Chad and Steve both, they're hard hunters. Yeah. They feed them dogs a lot of coons, and I think, in my opinion, because really we can overlook at things a lot of times and put them in too many hunts, and they're having fun still doing it, I feel like, and they're still enjoying doing their job. But at the same time, at the end of the day, in my opinion, of course, every dog's different. Some dogs you can go 5 years without feeding them any coons. Yeah. But I think once you take a dog and just take them away from casts and pleasure hunt them, whether that be by themselves or with another dog or whatever the case may be, but just take 30, 45 days and just coon hunt them and shoot some coons out to them, I think you can fix a lot of things doing that. And I think you can really overcome a lot of things by doing that. And I could be wrong, but that's kind of what Shot has taught me, and so has Emmy. Yeah. But yeah, I just, that's the only thing I can think of,
What about, because Emmy, or Shot is out of Emmy, of course, and he's out of Big Money. Yep. You raised him from a baby puppy, or did you get him when he was a little older? He was a little older,
so he was Kevin Cable's pick of the litter. Mm-hmm. Shot was, so Kevin got him. Kevin raised him till he was about, I would say he was probably 8 or 9 months old. And then Kevin sold him to Bradley Kelly. Actually, that's how Kevin got Money in the Bank. Bradley had Money in the Bank, and I think they done some trading. Yeah. And Kevin ended up getting Bank, and then Bradley ended up getting Shot. But I think he was just a 10-month-old puppy, and Bradley posted him for sale, and I bought him from Bradley when he was 10 months old. I think.
Was he? You probably hadn't been messed with.
No, he hadn't. Yeah. The night I remember we drove to the Missouri Pro Hunt, and he picked him up, and we didn't do no good. We come back on Saturday, turned him loose, and not knowing what to expect, and he didn't do much. I mean, he made a couple slicks. He wouldn't hardly go hunting, and we turned him loose on a coon we saw across the road, and he struck that coon and run it wide open, located great big. And I thought, all right, this might be the deal here. We can get it shot out to him. He shut up and come right back to me. And I thought, well, there you go. You're a good one. You fit just right in my kennel, buddy.
Well, that just goes to show you, especially, it's different when you raise them from a baby puppy and you can see that progression. But when you take a young dog that has probably hadn't been out of the kennel much and stuff like that, you can't take a whole lot of stock into what they do the first night or two at a new place.
Yep. No, you can't. And that's that's one thing about it. Some dogs, it takes them a little bit to warm up to you, but just Bradley had said he'd treat a couple coons by himself, and he probably did, but literally he come from Indiana to Missouri to the pro hunt and stayed in my dog box while I hunted a late round, and then we drove all the way home, and then we pulled him out of the box and turned him loose again, but gradually, you could tell the dog, if he had treated any coons at all, it was just maybe a couple, but
when did you see him really start picking it up and knew that you probably had something that you might like?
So I hunted him for a while, probably a month. And, of course, not a month straight, but I hunted him for a month, hunted him with Emmy, and hunted him with some other dogs. And the dog would make trees. I think he was probably treeing squirrels, as a puppy. And one night, my dad and I was coon hunting, and we had him, and he made a couple trees. And I wouldn't work on him because you could tell he just didn't know a whole lot, you know. So I wasn't real bad about working on him. And we just headed home from hunting. We got about a mile from my dad's place, and we saw a coon cross the road, and I thought, we'll try it again. First time didn't work, so we'll try her again. We cut him loose on it. Man, he struck it and run it about 100 yards and loaded up and come treed, and had a coon and shot it out to him. And he just slowly started progressing from there. But as far as, like, when I knew I had something in him, even when I first started him, he done some of the things that Emmy done when I first started her, good and bad. The dog didn't care what nothing was doing. I mean, he come to this world just like he didn't have no ears, and he was, when he got treed, he was, a stay put tree dog and things like that. But, I just seen the little things about him that I saw in Emmy, and I thought, man, and plus he was the only thing I had out of Emmy at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to put all my time into him and see what he makes. And it just worked out. After that coon, he just slowly started getting better. It just seemed like night after night he would learn something new, and he would get better and get better and get better. But until he was probably, 17, 18 months old before he settled down. I mean, he didn't settle down, but before he got consistent about training coons and stuff like that, So
is that about when you started putting him in a few hunts?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I put him in a few hunts, and I think he was about 17 months old. I do know his 1-year-old Super Stakes. I had a goal set. I wanted to win his money for the Nationals and take in the Super Stakes. And so he had to have been about 17 months old when I started hunting him. Because we'd run a little bit. We got his 1,001 for Nationals, and stuff. But and even then he wasn't. He was just about good enough to take to town, basically. I mean, we were still working on things, pleasure hunting him, and trying to get him right, So,
well, I mean, $1,000 to win $1,000 down here is not like winning $1,000 in a lot of places. It's hard to win down here.
It is. If I've always said this, if you got a 1-year-old or 2-year-old or whatever, how old your dog is as a Super Stakes, and you're trying to win this money and you can win your money down here, you got a good shot at getting in. Of course, that don't always happen. A lot of factors go into that, but if you got one down here that you can take to and put him in 3 or 4 casts and win 2 of them down here in this country, you've got something.
These guys ain't gonna let you win a cast just to get your 101 on a pup, are they?
No, they're not. They're good guys to hunt with, but I'm telling you right now, you're gonna earn everything you get.
Yeah. What about how did he do at his first Super Stakes?
He done good, honestly. I say that. We took him down. I didn't have no expectations. I mean, the dog, even as a 1-year-old, he was a very consistent cast winner. Yeah. I mean, he won a lot of the casts you put him in. I mean,
he was always a stay out of trouble.
He was,
type
dog.
He
never. Yeah. But as a 1-year-old, though, he was a really good strike dog. Yeah. He was a very good strike dog.
He grew out of that.
He did. And I hate it. Man. Yeah. I'm like, gosh, I wish I could get him to bark, but he was a very good strike dog. So he was a dog that would always have 200. Yeah. I mean, every single time in a cast, he'd have 200, maybe 175 on a rare occasion. But he would always have a coon. He didn't miss a whole lot. I mean, he would miss way more then than he does now, but he was just a consistent cast winner, but yeah, he was. But as a 1-year-old, go back to the Super Stakes. As a 1-year-old, we took him to Super Stakes, and it was. I think it was the year that they had postponed it.
Yeah.
And it happened at the time. I was working for the Oklahoma Forestry Services, and we was real busy. Month of April, we'd be super busy. And they postponed it, I think, to like May. And so we went out there and I hunted all week. I hunted 4 nights. He won early Monday, and got beat late Monday. Won early Tuesday, he got beat late Tuesday. Got beat early Wednesday, and then Thursday he won early and got beat late. So he won 3 out of 4 earlies as a 1-year-old at Super Stakes, and I was pretty. I mean, it would have been cool to double up and get in at the Super Stakes with him, But man, I'm like, man, this dog. And it wasn't like he would fall apart on late rounds. He would just. I don't know. We just always seem like not catch a right break, or maybe he'd spend too much time on the ground.
It's easy to catch a bad break in a late round.
It is,
especially at Super Stakes or World Hunt or something like that. It's easy to do. But after you got back from Super Stakes, to win 3 out of 4 early rounds is not easy. First of all, to win that late round's hard because you're turned loose in dogged out spots. Especially on Thursday, tired dogs and stuff, and it's easy for a dog to make a mistake or to take 5-10 minutes off when it should have, and a lot of times they tree that coon that they need 5 minutes after the cast is over or something like that. So you said you were feeling good. You got him home, and what was your goals for him then as you come back from Super Stakes?
I wanted to take him to nationals, the World Hunt. I wanted to take him to them bigger major events. At the time we was still hunting Emmy a little bit, not much. Like we was taking her to some bigger stuff, and so it was kind of a transitioning thing,
I remember it was hard for you to keep Emmy at the house and take shot at that time. Because you look at what all Emmy had done for you. It was so hard to leave her in the kennel when you got a proven winner out there.
Yeah, that's a fact, and it was about that time that we decided, we was gonna hunt her in Purina Nationals that year. That was the last year they had it, and we was gonna hunt her in that. And then we was going to pretty much just focus on shot, and put her in some bigger stuff. But we, like I said, it was hard to leave her at home, especially the stuff she had won for me and done for me and stuff like that. But it was just, man, I just, my goals, as far as my goals with him, I didn't really have high expectations with him. I just wanted to hunt him in some bigger hunts and see how he'd fare and because and then still work on him and try to get him right, because that's when you go from a dog like Emmy that's 6 years old, just consistent, and you turn her loose, she goes and treats you coons, and then you go to a 1-year-old that you've been working on, it makes you want to pull your hair out. It's about the time I lost all my hair too, I think, so that might make sense on why I did that. But yeah, we just wanted to pack him around a little bit and take him to them major hunts and see how he did. So we took him to that was in May, and so the next one would have been the World Hunt. We took him to PKC World Hunt. We even qualified him UKC World Hunt, I think. Took him to the UKC zones. I think that would have been first, and got him into the top 100. And then the PKC World Hunt, we hunted him 3 nights. He won 2 out of 3 earlies at the PKC World Hunt. Got beat late. Every late round he was on, but that's pretty much all we put him in that year. And then we made him the top 16 of the state race, stuff like that. But
did you think at that time that this is my future long-term dog that I'm going to win with for the next 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about win with, but I knew he was going to be the one I was going to invest all my time in. Yeah, I knew. I'm like especially at this time in his life, man, he reminded me so much of Emmy. Yeah. And the poor little guy, his worst enemy as a 1 and 2-year-old was me. Yeah. He was, because I went from hunting Emmy to him, so I was working on him too hard, and I had him blowed up about half the time, to be honest with you, but yeah, I knew, I'm like, this is the one I'm going to invest all my time in, because he does about 90% of the stuff that Emmy done, both right and wrong at that age, because I raised Emmy too, and she done the same thing that he did. It was just like I was hunting her over again, Of course, now she done, I think probably as a 2-year-old, definitely as a 1-year-old, she was a lot better dog than he was. But he still done the things that she did. So yeah, I knew, I'm like, yeah, man, this is the one I need to be putting my time into. And he was all I had other than Emmy, So it's just one of them deals where I'm like, what do you just work with what you got? I guess we're gonna.
One thing about you, Lane, is for a guy that hunts pretty hard, you never had a lot of dogs. Very rarely did I see you, maybe 2, a lot of times just 1.
Yep.
Very rarely 3, and those were usually dogs that were coming and going. You were hunting them for somebody, or you bought it to flip or something like that. And so that's a big toll on a dog as hard as you hunt. And not having a pack or 3 or 4 dogs to hunt.
Yeah, it can be, especially when they're young.
Yeah.
Some dogs can take it, as well as I do. Some of them love it.
Yeah.
Some of them, the more you hunt them, the harder you hunt them, the more you run them into the ground, the better they operate. And some of them just ain't that way, and I'll be honest with you, I think Shot has always been a dog that isn't that way.
Yeah.
I think you could have took Shot and hunted him even as a 1-year-old 4 nights a week, maybe 5, and he'd been perfect.
Yeah.
You didn't, but
that's hard hunting for a lot of people.
It is, but I was dumb and young, and I thought, man, the only way I'm gonna make this dog a good one is hunt him to death.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's you get people and they say, what do I do with this young dog? This young dog's doing that, and it's he needs 30 days, 30 nights in a row. He needs 90 nights in a row. He needs a big long kill season. A lot of times, them dogs don't need that.
No, and a lot of people, I think, honestly,
sometimes they do.
They do, yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times the guys just got to step back and evaluate what he's hunting, and evaluate how that dog acts to situations, in my opinion, there's a difference in going coon hunting and going coon hunting and doing it right. Because thing is, if you just take a dog 7 nights a week and just hunt him and don't watch how he progresses, watch how he reacts to different things, watch how he reacts to shooting a bunch of coons to him, maybe not shooting coons to him, off the recut, shocking him, beating him, whatever. If you don't notice that, then you're not going to ever gain ground on that dog, and that's my opinion, and that's a big thing. You've just got to be able to realize what you're working with there, but me at the time, I was just bullheaded, and I was like, I'm gonna hunt this dog 7 nights a week, and it's gonna make him a coon dog. So
we've all done that.
Yep.
I mean, we've all, especially when you get excited about a young dog that's out of your old female. You started the dog, you raised the dog pretty much, and you get that. I've done the same thing with Con. I've done the same thing with Duds. Jed's done it with numerous dogs, where we've just really pounded them to death. He used to do it with Trader.
Yep.
That poor Trader would just he'd be 7 years old and Jed'd be hunting him 7 nights a week getting ready for the world hunt. And Trader's mad at Jed and Jed's mad at Trader, and they're fighting at every tree, and I mean, and so one thing about it, I think you've done the same thing, is we've seen the Trader pups, we've seen the Trader grand pups. You're seeing the same things out of Shot as you were Emmy. So did that help? I mean, I think that obviously helped.
Yes, it kind of gives you a head start. I think it kind of gives you. But I've seen the same things out of him, but even then, at the same time, you don't know if he's going to react the same way she did, and he didn't. She was one, man, you could whoop on her and correct her and give her a good one. Yeah. And when you got through cutting her loose, she would be treated with a coon somewhere. Yeah. Now, and it didn't affect her one bit. Right. Now, Shot, he's always been a dog want to be your buddy. Yeah. If you whooped and beat on him a whole lot, it wouldn't take but very much, and he'd be blowed up, and she was the opposite. I mean, she was just tough as nails, and of course she wanted to be your friend too, but at the same time, she was smart enough to know, and which he is too, and was, but he didn't have that mentally. He wasn't mentally there.
So they were very similar in the woods, the same ability, the same style, as you would say, but mentally they were different. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, mentally I had to do like we talked about a while ago. I had to take a step back and say, okay, whooping on this dog ain't doing no good. You're going to have to just let him go and let him be for a little while. I mean, and that's what we had to do. We just had to, because when he was a 2-year-old, I had him blowed up. Yeah. I mean, bad. And it took a long time to get him back right. I had him to where when a dog come to him, he'd leave. Yeah. Well, I know he did that. We were pleasure hunting one night. I think I was hunting Con or Duds or something like that. And one of mine piled in there with him, and he took off, you know. And I knew, which I always liked Shot. Yep. I always did. I'd hunted with him since the time you got him and all that stuff. I'd hunted with Shot quite a bit. I always liked the way he operated and the way he done things. But I never dreamed he would be the kind of dog that would put up 850 at the Pro Sport Truck Series. And that's when I kind of looked around. And, I'm doing the live coverage, and I'm getting the play-by-play, and I'm thinking, Shot Street again, coon. And Tyler's sending me this stuff. Jenna's over here with the coon. Then Shot's over here with another coon. And Shot had never struck me as the kind of dog that was going to be in a shootout.
Yep.
And then I start looking at your scores that week and the week following, and you're still winning. And I think he had come out of that funk before that, and I just hadn't noticed, But really at that Pro Sport Truck Series, that's when it looked like, Lane's got this dog figured out.
That's the first hunt, honestly. I mean, we took him to some smaller state championship Pro Classic qualifiers that we put on, and he still wasn't quite out of that funk then. Matter of fact, Owen Shelby, I got to give a little shout out to him. He's a good friend. Don't give Owen Shelby no credit. he's a good buddy of mine, but he would come to our state Pro Classic qualifiers, and him and Tyler Young's buying these dogs for $1,500, and I'd draw him to every one of them. He'd beat me, and his dogs wouldn't tree a coon. Mine would get treed in there, and they'd come to me, and mine would leave.
Yeah,
and so Owen told me, he's like you're going to, and obviously I knew I'm going to do something. This ain't working. And this was right at the end of last year, before winter. And I said, I've got to fix that, so that's when we decided to take away from everything. But Owen's like, he's like, if it wouldn't been for me, I don't know if you'd ever got shot right. And I'm like, you're probably right. I was just getting tired of getting beat like
Owen just likes credit for anything.
He does, yeah. But
The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network is proud to partner with Cajun Lights. Cajun Lights can outfit all of your hunting light needs, everything from the high-quality Rougarou, super bright, super versatile. They've got a Bayou, which is a mid-range price light. And then one of my personal favorites is the Micro Gator. I use that for big game hunting, finding tracks, just general use. If I need a light on my head, I'm grabbing my Micro Gator. I've looked for bear tracks in that thing, lion tracks, cat tracks, coon hunted with it, hog hunted with it at night. I've even used it to work on the plumbing in the house. Super bright, super dependable. Everything that LW sells down there is high quality, and the customer service is second to none. Every week I'm getting notifications that they're adding new items to their store. They've got briar-proof clothing coming out. They got a jacket out right now that's really nice. I put the vest through the paces this last bear season and coon season. Couldn't be happier with that. I can't find anything there that I don't like, and I like dealing with LW Nixon and Cajun Lights. So check them out. You can go to houndsmanxp.com. You can follow that link to Cajun Lights right from our website. Check them out, folks. As competitors, we're always looking for the next thing that can give us an edge to reduce those variables and increase our chances of success, getting our picture taken in the next big payday. onX Maps can help you do that. onX is packed with features, including their detailed mapping showing terrain features and landowner information. You can actually use onX to scout for your next big event. Lock down your own permission from those landowners and guide your cast. I always like to guide a cast if I can. Go and pre-hunt those areas, know what my dog's going to do, where he's going to be, where the den trees are. Everything's there, folks. You can go to onxmaps.com, use the promo code HXP20, and get 20% off of your next subscription for onX. Know where you stand with onX.
But yeah, it was just one of them deals. But yeah, that was the Pro Sport Truck Hunt was the first one that I come to, and I knew I didn't know, but I had confidence.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got him right.
Yeah.
And you and I even talked, and you asked me if he was right, and I said I think he is.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the reason a while ago you touched on it, he's never has been a dog that would get in a shootout, because normally if he treated one or two coons off the most of the time off the first coon, he'd be so far in there he'd just be out of it. But, if he did make another tree, it was somewhere in a 2-hour cast, whether he treed one or two coons in 2 hours, he would be a mile and a half out of there. He would just be looking to get away from stuff too much.
He had the same whole scent had.
He did, yeah.
Same thing she had.
Yeah, and so, that was his hole. And when I dialed it back and went to pleasure hunting that winter, I shot a ton of coons with this dog, a ton. I started hunting with my father-in-law, Jeff Pedro, in Kansas, and Jeff in the wintertime, he'll kill every coon.
Yeah.
He carries around a pistol that's 8 foot long, I think, but he'll kill every coon of dog trees.
Yeah.
And so there for 2 months, I bet 2 weekends out of every month, me and Adria would go up there, and she'd, spend the night with her mom, and me and Jeff would hunt all night, all weekend. And we shot a pile of coons to this dog, and the more coons we shot to him, the better he got about treeing them off the recut. And, and today, if you would have told me that he was a dog that would tree, if you cut him in a patch of woods right here, and there's 3 of them to be treed, he could tree all 3 of them. I'd be like, there's no way. Because as a 1-year-old, there's no way he would do that. He might tree one, but then he'd hit the edge, and he'd be a mile and a half through there. But I think shooting them coons to him and getting him dialed back got him to where he could compete in a shootout if you put him in one.
Well, I know just like right there at the TOC, he'd treat a den and we'd walked around and scored a bunch of dogs. And we'd get them all gathered up to recut. Shot goes in there about 700 yards, does a bang-up job on a coon. Little female covers him. I was worried when she covered him because, I knew he had some trouble with that, Never missed a lick, never bothered him a bit. And now I've got 14 minutes to tree another coon, and I'm cutting him in a pretty small patch of woods. I'm thinking, this is never going to work. This dog's going to be over this mountain, and I'm going to be driving around trying to pick him up at the end of the game. 500 yards, another coon. Now, unfortunately, that female covered him again and got in. We lost on the tiebreaker, but, he never would have done that as a 2-year-old.
No, as a 2-year-old, he'd have said, see ya.
Yeah, he done got covered once.
Yep, that ain't happening again.
He ain't letting that happen again.
Yeah, but I think that's what got him back to where he was kind of, he was looking, as a 1 and 2-year-old, he was not necessarily looking to tree coons. He was, but he was more or less at some point in the night looking to get away from everything.
Right.
Now he's not going to cover nothing, but, hey, if they want to pile in here on me on this coon, that's fine. I'm going to recut, and if there's another one right here, I'm going to tree it. That's kind of his mentality now and I think a lot of that just has to do with rolling them coons to him, And when, matter of fact, Jeff, when we went shooting a lot of them coons out to him, I thought, man, we're going to have to quit doing this, He's like, why? I said, because he's going to start going back to trees. I know he will.
Yeah.
Never has.
Yeah.
Never has offered to, and Jeff said, he won't. He said, he's old enough now. He's like, he ain't going to go back.
Well, see, some dogs just thrive. Hazel's one where she ate every coon she got when she was a baby. She'd never treed the same coon twice. Yep. And then we got her, and she wouldn't recut. But we got her recutting, and then I got to not shooting her coons, and she started missing. So I just went back to shooting pretty much everything she treed and making sure she still recut. And so far, there's absolutely been no trouble. And that dog went from having coons in 3-4 out of 10 trees to 7 or 8 out of 10 trees. Some dogs are just built like that. But like you said earlier, you don't know until you try.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You ain't gonna hurt nothing by trying it.
Exactly.
And that's the deal. I mean, but
what you got the final 4 of the truck hunt.
Yep.
The dog looked good all week. That last cast, it was kind of, you could tell he was a little worn out. You could tell Mabel was a little worn out. Strickland's Lucky Charm squalling coons out of every den and all that stuff. That dog looked good. That's
she did.
A good little
she looked
dog,
very good. Yep.
And so he ends up winning that truck, but he started making a run with shot there.
Yep.
And then it ain't the next weekend?
The next weekend
is the PKC truck hunt that you're qualified for. Tell us about that.
So we had we run for a pup ticket. We got a pup ticket, and then we run for a senior ticket. We didn't get a senior ticket. We just missed it by a little bit. And, well, it's funny because just like how when Emmy and I won the truck, we didn't get a truck ticket. And they called us the week before and said, hey, you want to come hunt for a truck?
It was Brandon Costleman that couldn't hunt.
Yep, Brandon's dog, Snooky,
that,
coming to heat. Yep. And so they're like, you want to come hunt the senior hunt too? I'm like, yeah, sure. So, and I thought, I'm going to win this senior truck hunt. And because I'm like, there's just too much, adds up. And anyways, needless to say, I didn't win the senior truck hunt. We went out there, and Thursday night, he literally just run off. Yeah. I never heard him. Never got him.
What were the conditions like?
Oh, windy, wet. It was it was horrible. You couldn't hear nothing. One boy's dog struck for 100. The 6 caught him. And my dog was, the cast is just, we stand in the middle of the dirt road for an hour. And my dog, according to my Garmin, he was 1.25 miles this way. Bus driver was 1.25 miles the same way as mine. Snooky was the same way as the dog that had took 100 tree minus. Well, everybody agrees, hey, we're not doing no good sending this road. Do you guys just want to walk up this road and get out here in this opening? And I'm like, yeah, sure. We get out there and the wind kind of calms down, switches directions. The boy that was struck for 100, you could hear his dog treating there.
Yeah.
So he strikes some trees. And so we start easing in there. We get to him. He's on a den. Right before we get to him, you can hear Snooky. She's treed, or not Snooky. JWoww, sorry. JWow's treed back in there behind him. And so he gets her struck and treed. And at this point, this tree's circle, so I quit. That's the only way. I need that tree to be slick. And I knew JWoww was going to have a coon, so I quit. Well, JWoww had a coon and Brandon won early. But I never heard my dog. I drove around, and he ended up getting, and we was hunting in a spot that was good the way we sent, but the dogs crossed the road, and it was just nothing but pine thickets and just laid over stuff where they'd logged it, and it was just a bunch of slash and stuff. It was horrible. And mine got finally out of that by the time the cast was over, and he was just going across wide open, and I got over and got him caught. He never, as far as I know, he never opened his mouth, but kind of got him a chance to get him turned loose anyway,
get his legs stretched.
Get his legs stretched, and so the next night I thought, man, hopefully we, the next night was the pup hunt because they had to postpone the senior hunt the month before. And so I'm like, man, hopefully, we kind of draw a little better place, to go. And we did early, and we had a good hunt, Early on the pup hunt on Friday, we drew Stanley Lucas as our guide. Stanley's got some good hunting down there, and this place is huge. It's like 15,000 acres, and there ain't a road in it. It's one of them places you can get 3 miles from the truck and you're just stuck. You're going to have to walk. And so anyways, we had a good hunt, though. We cut loose there and shot struck for 100 right after the minute. It was me, James Ashley hunting the Tootsie Roll female, Dusty, I can't remember his last name, but he hunts that dog called Buck. And then another guy from Pennsylvania hunting another young dog, and I struck for 100 after the minute, and he just barked a couple times, and then he shut up, and then Buck struck, and then Tootsie struck, then Buck struck, and mine just, when he shut up, mine just hit this creek and blew out there, and it was really windy that night too. You couldn't hardly hear nothing, and Buck made a tree, Tootsie covered on that deal that is a den. Walk off that. The other dog hadn't been struck. Put the 6 on me. We walk and walk and walk. I'm like a mile, and I'm just still going. He's just on this creek running. And
we were just talking about how he stayed in pocket and stuff now.
Exactly. No kidding. Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought the one time he strikes for 100, he's going to do this to me. Yeah, so anyways, he just keeps trucking down this creek, man. 6 catches me, minus me, get them recut. The wind calms down a little bit. You can hear me in there, so I get restruck for 100 again, and he's right at 9/10, and so we ease on in there a little bit. Them other dogs hit this road run right down toward him, and we stop. Tootsie gets struck, and Buck gets struck as well, and I get treed. Tootsie covers me. Well, we go in there, we got a coon. And then Buck gets treed over here, and this other dog still ain't heard nothing from him. He's across the road and just gone. He's out of it at this point. And so we get recut again, and mine goes toward them dogs. I cut him toward them to keep him in pocket, try to.
Yeah.
And I'll be dang if he didn't wheel around and go behind us, hit another creek, and he was just gone again.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm out of it. We go to Buck. Buck's got a coon that puts him winning. And Tootsie gets split treed from him. And the other boy's dog ended up getting back in pocket and ended up getting with Tootsie. Well, Buck's got a coon. We get Buck recut. We go to them too. She's got a den. This guy, the other guy, quits at this point, and we get him recut. Well, at this time, Buck's treed again. And the only way I can win this cast is if somehow I get struck for 100. Yeah. And the only way I'm going to do it is by miracle. Yeah. Because you know how it is when you got on a 3-dog cast, 2 dogs are recut, and you're a mile in there. The odds of another dog not barking after you pull this dog that you're fixing to score off tree is slim.
Yep.
So we go into Buck. And we get Buck. He's got another coon that puts Buck at 3 1/4 or 300, and Tootsie ain't struck yet. Walk Bucky's minute, cut him loose, and the wind calmed down. You hear shot treat in there. I get him struck, treat 100. We get in there to him. He's got a coon, puts him at 300. I had him beat on tiebreaker. Well, we get recut there, and mine goes around. Mine was in the slough. It's probably, knee deep water. Yeah. And he gets over and gets treed again, and the hunt runs out. Didn't have to tree him. He had another coon, and so we won early there. And at this point, other than the pro sport truck hunt, we hadn't had much luck on late runs, So, which thankfully, I guess the PKC truck hunt, you just had to win. Yep. Saturday night was another early round. Top 16 was on Saturday. So, but anyway, so we Saturday rolls around there, and I'm trying to think. Oh, I drew in the top 16. We drew that Be Good Cowboy dog. Mm-hmm. That it was a little female Tom Jones owns three zone or something like that is what they call her. And then that 100 female that Dalton Cummings used to own. And of course, I'd hunted with her a lot. I knew what she was, and so we go out there and we cut loose and Cowboy strikes for 100, Hunter strikes for 75, and they're running the heck out of this. Whatever they're running, they're running the heck out of it. And anyways, mine opens right-handed, and mine is just beating and banging around in there, and 100 comes back to him, and he loads up and comes treed, and he's not treed right. I mean, I can tell something's wrong. I don't know what the deal is, but something's not right. And so I'm just like, I'm not treeing. And I knew 100, she would get you covered. I mean, if nothing's going on, she'll get some of it. And she covered him, and he treed for 100. The two she shut up, both of them did. The two end up catching her. Mine comes back treed again. I'm still standing there. I'm like, I still don't want no part of it. Yeah. The only way I'm treeing is if I absolutely have to. And because I just knew it wasn't right. Something wasn't right with it.
One thing about Shot is you can tell when he's not right.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can. You can
tell.
Some
of them dogs you can't tell. Con, for instance, you can't tell. He sounds the same on a gut slick as he does if he's looking at it.
Yeah, Shot, he gives himself away. And so 100 takes 100 tree minus there, comes back treed again. And he trees her for 100 again. At this point, he's got to, he has nothing to lose. And so I wait around tree for a quarter. Well, we get in there to him, and this water is about waist deep. Yeah. I mean, them dogs are swimming around this big cypress tree. They didn't have nothing. I mean, it's slick. Yeah. I don't. And of course, when you get in water like it's tough tree.
It is
like that. Yeah. And so we take a minus. That boy quits, withdraws, and Cowboy still trailing. I get cut back to Cowboy, and not a whole lot goes on this next 45 minutes, and
we can't express how rough the conditions were down there that week.
It was very tough. Yes. Very, very, very tough.
There was talk of canceling it again because of the water.
Yeah. It was very tough, but PKC did what they had to do. Yeah, I mean, they done the best they could with it. Job. Yeah. So we stand out in the middle of this field, and Cowboy comes treed in there and put the stationary on him. You can tell it ain't right. And he has to tree him. He trees him for 100, shuts up 2, catches him, minus him 100. Put the 6 on him, 6 catches him, minus him 100. Mm-hmm. And the other female hadn't been struck, hadn't been heard from. I thought she was just completely out of it. And we was asking him, where she was at. And he's like, well, she's back here, and what she hadn't, I don't think she was one that said much on the ground. Yeah. Coons were not moving at all. And mine was about 9/10 this way, back toward the truck. And he ended up making a big circle and looping back in here and got about 9/10 from this the other way. And there's probably 12, 15 minutes left in the hunt. And we just all kind of stand around talking, and I thought, man, so let's listen, because I thought I heard him. Yeah. And just barely you could hear him in there. So I get him struck, and we walk in there and we tighten up, and we stop. And Cowboy come to us, and he was limping. I mean, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he bait a hog or what, but he was kind of tore up. You could tell he was tore up, and well, we stop up there, and I got treed in, and we walked hunt out to him, and he had a coon up a sycamore tree. Yeah. And so that put us in the final cast, and I was pretty excited about that, just being back in the final cast with one out of with one out of Emmy, that
Yeah.
had won it for me in 2018. I was pretty excited about that. I could have got fourth and been pretty pumped up, I think, you know. But and then in the final cast, it was it was kind of a weird hunt. I mean, it started out, it wasn't the best hunt, but it just all worked out. It was me and Bruce. I should know this because he's Adrian's cousin. I can't think his last name.
I looked at I watched the play-by-play, of course, but I can't remember who
Bruce
all
knows.
was in it.
Bruce knows I'm talking about him. Bruce, I'm talking about you. And so, anyways, Bruce Summers.
Yes.
And so it's me and Bruce, Will Heffington hunting Lawman, and Scotty Harbor hunting Flip.
Yep.
Backwater Flip, and it was cool because Will, he comes up here to our hunts. We hunt with him quite a bit and hunt against him. He's good to hunt with, and Bruce, he's fun to hunt with too. And it was just kind of a fun cast. Like whenever I was in the finals of Cheyenne and when Amy won it was just fun. Made it fun, and we.
There's something to be said about something that's huge stakes, brand new Nissan truck, and you can treat it like a $30 hunt.
Yeah,
because it's that
absolutely.
laid back and that fun.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the way it was. I mean, it wasn't no different than a $30 hunt around here, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you could have went to a $30 hunt the following weekend, and Will Heffington, the lawman, would have been there, and I know Bruce would have been there.
Yeah.
And you could have the same cast.
Yeah.
It's funny, but before we Brett Denny and them took us out to this spot, and it was the same spot they hunted the senior showdown. And before we cut loose, they're like, "Look, guys, we don't want to go across the road here. It's bad." And mine, where's he end up? Across the road.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we cut loose, and Flip struck for 100. Sis struck for 75. Sis got treed. Flip and Lawman was past her. Lawman got struck for 50. Mine's across the road, ain't barked yet. And we go to Sis. She's got a den, and probably had a coon in it. I mean, it was a good, legit den tree, good tree. And on the way to her, Lawman trees for 100, Flip covers for 75. Well, we get done scoring her, and Flip's gone, so minus 75. We go to Lawman. He's got a coon. That puts him winning.
Yeah.
And, Sis, I think Sis goes back to this tree, but Flip's retreated at the meantime, so we're going to score Flip. So we get into Flip. He's got a coon. And we walk Flip his minute, recut him. He just goes straight back. So now we've got stationary working on both of them, both him and Sis. Yeah. And Flip has to tree first because I think they put the stationary on him first. And we go to him, same tree, recut him. He ends up going back again, gets scratched. And then Sis, they have to tree Sis. We go to her. She's on that same tree, so delete her. And at this point, mine's treed. But for the last 35 minutes, mine had been in the same spot, beating and banging around, just like he did the night before, or the round before. Whenever he ended up treeing that slick, I just knew that they was in a bunch of water.
Yeah, and
he probably was. But anyway, so we cut Sis right at her, and she right at him, and she's one that nothing's going on. She'll go check him out, and she makes about 3 barks, and Bruce strikes and trees her, which I was fine with that. Cause in my mind, the best this is going to be is a den. There ain't no way we're going to have a coon, I don't think. And so I tree for a quarter. And go in there, we've got a coon. I thought, you got to be kidding me. Really, shot? A slick here would have been a lot better than that coon, honestly, because now at this point, I've got to shut her out on a coon to win this truck. And that ain't happening, I don't think. In my mind, she's a good strike dog. She can treat them coons as good as anything, and like I said, if nothing's going on, she ain't afraid to get a piece of yours.
There's nothing better than being in a cast where a dog has to be alone.
Yeah.
And then you're the handler of a dog that will cover if there's nothing going on.
Oh,
I love that position.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm thinking, go tree one for me.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
okay with it.
I'm sure. So we get recut, and Lawman's out of the country. He's out of it.
Yeah.
If we treat another coon, he's beat. And so anyways, we cut loose there, and probably 7 or 8 minutes goes by. Mine strikes. He's about 600 from us. And Bruce's dog is like 800 from us. And on the play-by-play, it makes it seem like mine just ambushed coon, strikes and trees. Well, he strikes, and he runs this coon. He runs it over here. And I'm thinking, she's going to open any minute. And Bruce is like, how far is he? And I'm like, like 600, 500 something. And I'm like, how far in? He's like, mine's in there 800 and she ain't moving. He's like, you think we ought to be out here? I said, surely.
Yeah.
You know, and mine runs this coon over to this river, loads up and comes treed. And I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm thinking, what are you doing? You better tree your dog. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I tree my dog, and after about 3 minutes, Sis works her way back in there and gets struck with me and covers me.
Yeah.
And we go in there too, and we got a coon that puts me winning, and there's like 8 minutes left in the cast, and we cut loose and nothing happened. And it wasn't 30 seconds after the hunt was over, you know, Sis gets treed again and has a coon, you know, and she just needed a little bit more time, but it's worked out.
What are those 8 minutes like? Aren't those miserable minutes?
Miserable.
I haven't been in that situation as much as you have. I've only been in it maybe twice.
You know, and especially because, like me, when I cut mine, I cut him down this road on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't want him to do nothing. I don't want him to tree a coon to put me in
until she slides in there about 200 yards.
And then trees a coon beats
Then
me.
you're like, oh no.
Exactly.
What was I thinking?
Yeah. So I cut him down this road. I wanted to make her tree a coon to beat me. Yeah. I didn't want to put myself in that situation to where I had to tree and get in a calling contest because I'm not good at it. Yeah. Nope. You know, I'll beat myself every time. So I'm like, it is what it is. I'm gonna cut him down this lane, and she I think he cut her the other way, and I cut mine this way, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't, you know. So, but yeah, I stood there for 8 minutes, and when it got down to about 2 minutes, I bet I walked a hole in the ground. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. You know, and everybody's like, man, you know what? You know, being there once, you know, you probably wasn't nervous, you know, this and that. I'm telling you right now, even today in the final cast, I get so nervous I want to puke, and especially when I'm winning the cast,
especially in that situation.
Yes, and there's 5 minutes left to hunt, and you know that you can't do nothing. If that dog trees a coon and beats you, you're beat. Yep. You know, and it just makes you sick. But and you know, that was the last 8 minutes of that cast was just. You know, after, you know, the last 3 minutes, you know, I just kind of got sat down, and I'm like, it is what it is at this point. If I'm meant to win this truck, I'll win it, you know, and it still don't make it no better. No. You know, still mentally in your head, you're like, gosh, come on, you know what? Are you sure the hunt ain't over, you know? But I just sat there and the hunt run out, and I just, dude, it was crazy. All the emotions hit me, you know, and you know, I think honestly probably it felt better to win it this time than it did with Emmy. Don't get me wrong, I was on top of the world when I won it with Emmy. But just to be able to win it out of something that you've raised and you've trained and you've seen the lowest of lows with this dog, you know, and the highest of highs, and it don't feel no better. There's not a better feeling in the entire world because you put so much time and work into it, and away from your family, and you know, hunting every night, and it just makes it worth it, you know. And it's a feeling that I don't think anybody can explain it. You just got to be able to live it, and very fortunate and blessed that I've been able to live it, you know. And it's just it's cool. I'm telling you, it was just being able to do it with him out of her. It was cool to me. I mean, it really was.
Well, Jason Doherty called it a high, and then it is, and we just can't quit chasing it. Nope. And it's so hard to get. Yep. You know, it's much easier to go down the road and buy an 8-ball than
exactly.
do this.
That's what they say. Yeah. Thank God I ain't ever.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you that to be sure.
I hear.
We better clear that up, Josh.
But you know, you look at the Final Four of a big money event. I don't care if it's a 16-dog Pro Classic or a World Hunt or something like that. You know, and you know what's at stake, and it is different than going into the finals of a $100 open event or something like that, or even the Final Four where you hunt it off late and you're going to get $800-900 if you're lucky. Yeah. You know, just brand new Nissan pickup, $40,000 pickup. You know, everybody could use that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing with me. You know, God's blessed me beyond measure. You know, this sport of coon hunting is literally. That's what I told Shane Patton when we got back. I'm like, it's crazy. You know, I'm not trying to sound like dramatic or nothing. I'm like, but it's crazy what just you guys putting these hunts on has done for me. Yeah. And the ability to go, because this is life changing. Yeah. I mean, you know, the things that these dogs have done for me and the blessings God has put into my life, the sport of coon hunting has changed my life forever. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting in this house right now. I mean, honestly, this house that you're sitting in right now, it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Emmy. and shot and these dogs and how good they've been to me.
Well, we wouldn't even be friends.
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right. Yeah, and that's
where
another.
would Lane Denny and Josh Michaelis have met
Exactly.
if it wasn't for
Never
this,
would have. And that's
you know?
another thing, you know. I mean, it's brought me lots of joy and lots of blessings, and it's brought me more than that, just lots of great friendships that I'll have forever. You know, I'm hoping, you know, when I die, people that's carrying my casket will be a coon hunter, you know.
And you look at, of course, Joe Gross just passed away, and then Michael Moody's on the cover of Pro Hound this week. And all good friends of a lot of coon hunters.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, the whole funerals and processions and all that stuff were full of coon hunters.
Yep.
And, you know, I think that's the way we're going to go out, hopefully.
Yeah.
I may have to hire 6 people to carry my casket. I know Finley's going to have to.
Yeah. That's
It'll just be me and 4 other guys I have to pay off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and that's what's crazy. You know, in these hunts, you know, we're all after each other. We all want to win. You know. But at the end of the day, coon hunters, man, I'm telling you, there ain't a I don't know if you'd call us a breed, but there ain't a breed of people out there like us. You know, we've got each other's back at the end of the day, and you know, sure, we're all competitors. We can pig it against each other night in and night out, but at the end of the day, man, it's way much bigger than a sport in itself.
When a coon hunter needs help, the first person they dial up is another coon hunter.
That's right. Yep, absolutely, without a doubt, because that person will be there for them. You know, that's just how it is.
Well, Lane, I sure appreciate it. You done well with Shot again last night, too. I know we'll get together and we'll talk. Shot's got a big future ahead of him. I think he's got a future in the stud field, too.
I hope, you know, and as far as a stud dog, I don't know. I've always said I'll never have one, you know, but he's, in my opinion, he comes from a long line of winners, a long line of reproducers. You know, I think he's going to do his part. I've got 2 4-month-old puppies out of him right now. They're doing really well. I mean, but, you know, I hope his future is bright. I hope I can get 2 more years out of him, and good Lord willing, he'll allow me to hunt him another 2 years and see what we can get done, you know, and so. Well,
thanks for sitting down with me, Lane. You got him in again last night. You're going to be hunting Saturday for, what, 40 grand?
40,000, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Shot's on a roll. Keep him going. Thanks for sitting down with me, and keep me updated on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and we'll do it again, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. We thank you for listening.